When you talk to Uber drivers today, a lot of them will tell you that Uber needs to pay us better. We need a pay raise, right? We need a pay raise. Let's strike. Let's take them down because we need a pay raise. Who is Uber that they should be taking so much money from us, man? Like, we need a pay raise. That's what we need. We need a pay raise. We need more money. They need to pay us better. That's what you hear from a lot of drivers, which I understand, in terms of percentages, I think our percentage is something like Uber, of every fare, Uber gets what? 55, 60%, depending on who you ask, 70% of every fare. And it's like, what do they really do, right? We're the ones that take them in our car. We're the ones that have to pay for maintenance. We have to pay for gas. We have to pay for taxes. We're the ones that's dealing with the passenger. They don't do nothing. In some respects, all they do is market for the customer, and then they cover us with the quote-unquote commercial insurance, which a lot of people feel because in certain places they're self-insured. A lot of people feel like that's a hoax. So it's like when you talk to drivers, the overall sentiment is that Uber needs to pay us better. Let's just call it what it is. They need to pay us better. They need to give us more money. We deserve better. We deserve better. We deserve a pay raise, is what a lot of people feel. Give us our pay raise and drivers will be happy. Give us our pay raise and, nobody will complain. Give us our pay raise and we can pay our bills better. Give us our pay raise and we could we can live better. Just pay us more, right? That's a general consensus. You ask most Uber drivers and they'll tell you the same thing. It's unfortunate because Uber is taking so much. And a lot of people have that as like a negative aspect. That's actually one of the bigger reasons why a lot of the older drivers, a lot of the drivers that used to drive for Uber, no longer drive for Uber. That's why a lot of people are leaving the platform, because they were used to a time where Uber was taking much less than what it is now. So back in the day, a couple years ago, Uber was only taking, this is a little bit further back, but Uber was only taking 20% of the fare. So if the customer paid 40, Uber was only taking 20%. 20%, and we got 80%. So it felt like you were making a lot of money. In all respects, yeah, you were, because that's a $40 fare, 20%. Let's say 20% is only what, 10, 15 bucks, even less. That's a good amount. You get $30, Uber gets $10. Let's just say, for math's sake, let's just say that's what it was, right? Or maybe like $9. But yeah, let's just say it was $10. Uber gets 10, you get 30. Everybody and their grandma would say that's a good fare. That's a good split, right? It sounds good. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty good. The fact that and you do that a couple times, now you're looking at more money per ride. You could do more rides. You have more profit. Yeah, that was a different time. Uber did that when they were trying to entice drivers. But here's the thing. Just like everything else, when there's a high demand for something and there's low supply, you pay top dollar for it. This is why luxury brands are so expensive. Supposedly. This is supply and demand. Luxury brands are supposedly more expensive because there's less of them. So they could charge more for the luxury brand. It's a luxury aspect. Obviously you're supposedly getting like a higher quality item That's, that depends on who you ask. But yeah, you're supposed to be getting a higher quality item as well as an item that's not mass produced like that. So all by upping the cost of that item, I'm just telling you simple economics. Nothing special here. Supply and demand. If there's a huge demand for something and it's low supply, the price is going to be way more expensive. Then if there's a huge supply of an item and there's very low demand, doesn't matter doesn't matter the price is going to be much cheaper. That should make sense. So when it comes to us drivers, when it comes to back in the day, to kind of like bring it all back, back in the day, everybody wasn't an Uber driver. Most people wouldn't put their car on the platform. Back in the day, some people drove Uber, but not a lot of people. Not a lot of people. This whole gig work thing wasn't a thing. No, you worked your job, especially, if you're talking about like 5, 6, 7 years ago, you worked your job. And if you needed extra money, you got a second job. There was no concept of gig work. In the concept that we do today. So today, you don't have to get a second job. You go do Uber, you go do Amazon, you go, you go hit these gig apps. Back then, there were no gig apps. So it was just, and then the requirements were so much more stricter that you really couldn't just get on the Uber app and make money like we can today. The access to the app was a lot higher, because back then, especially if we talking about way back when, you had to have a very premium vehicle. Your vehicle had to be super nice. It had to be clean. It had to be, It had to be a very premium style, The access to the app just wasn't there. Everybody couldn't get on, Now, I know that in some states, unlike Florida, we don't really have an inspection, so anybody can get on. And if you see some of the Uber drivers here, it's like, how are you driving people around in that car? You missing headlights. You know what I'm saying? You got stuff going on in the back seat. You got roaches in the car. It's just, you can get away with that stuff here because we don't have an inspection. I mean, of course, people report you, and then, eventually, I guess they'll deactivate you if you get enough reports. But, most states, I would say other states have an inspection, so I guess that's not the case in other states. But now the access to the platform is so wide, That's Uber X, you can pretty much put any vehicle on the Uber app. Like, I just tried the other day, and I think I could put my motorcycle on there. So, you could put pretty much, I probably would only be able to do deliveries, but I'm just saying, you can pretty much put any vehicle on there in terms of Uber X. That's something that you couldn't do in the past. It had to be, because Uber started off, as a lot of you guys know, Uber started off as a black car service. It was a black car service because they wanted to beat out the taxi cabs, a premium service. Then Lyft came along with the cheap rides, with the bus fare rides. And Uber said, we could beat you at that game too. And that's, ultimately how Uber X came out. Uber X was to kill Lyft. And, then they started battling, and here we are. Quick history lesson, slight history lesson. But yeah, overall, the fact that we have all of this, the fact that we've come all of this way, the access to the platform, anybody can get on. I think you used to have to do an interview too in order to be on the platform. Now, it don't matter. They run the background check on you, which, as I've told you, I know people who have passed the background check that probably shouldn't, but hey, they on the platform. And then they approve you. Literally, you can get on the app within like an hour. I don't think that definitely wasn't the case back in the day. But the point is, over all of this time, all of this stuff, our pay seemingly has gone down. like I said, you used to make 80% of the fare. You go out, you do a couple rides at 80% of the fare, you know, you're probably looking at $100, $200, $300 easy. It's beautiful, right? That would be beautiful. That would be amazing if I'm making that type of money that quickly, you know? The difference is now, it ain't, you know, but the problem with it was that the service wasn't as common as it is today. Common, people don't say I'm getting into a taxi. People don't even say, hey, when they're in Lyft rides, they don't even say, hey, I'm getting into a Lyft. They say, hey, I'm getting into an Uber. Today, Uber is almost synonymous as ever. When you know, I mean, like, I'm trying to think of what else it used to be. Like, you used to tell people, hey, I'm getting in a taxi. Oh, my taxi just arrived. Now it's my Uber. Uber is that synonymous. It's like, hey, my Uber just arrived. I'm getting into my Uber. I'm taking my Uber. It's time to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, I've noticed that in terms of just, because also obviously I do Lyft. And when I get rides for Lyft, it's like, oh yeah, I'm sitting in my Uber, da 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 da. And I have to like look down and it's like, whoa, yeah, this is a Lyft. Or like my other app, you guys know I do another app. I do another app called Vivo. When I do that app and I get rides for that, it's still like, oh yeah, I'm sitting in my Uber. It's like, what? How you doing? Ma'am, I don't know if you do this, but this is not Uber. This is Revo. And so, yeah, you know, like, it's just funny. Uber has basically taken the market, in other words. You know, like how Blockbuster used to take over the market? Like when you would go get a DVD, you just knew you was going to Blockbuster. Then, you know, came along Redbox, and now you don't even think about Blockbuster. You know, it's kind of like now Netflix Netflix had the market for a long time. Now it's like you got all of these different options, so you don't even really think so much about Netflix. It's the same concept. Uber has the market right now. That's just what it is. So what I was saying before I started like rambling about like who has the market or not, what I'm saying is that there's a lot more requests. There's a lot more volume today than there used to be. Yeah, back in the day, we used to make 80-20. Yeah, it was good. And there were certain days where you could make a lot of money. There were also certain days where you wouldn't get requests. This is what it is. So I understand when people say that, yeah, we want a pay raise. Yeah, Uber should pay us more. Yeah, right? But if I could just push back slightly, I don't care. I'm an independent contractor. Okay, so this is my personal opinion. Some people gonna attack me or not, but I don't care. I don't care what, in the sense of, yes, Uber doesn't pay well. It's like I said, it's probably like 60-50 or 70-50, something. But as an independent contractor, I use that to my advantage because I don't work for Uber. So guess what I do? I multi-app. And I take the best offer that comes to me. So yeah, I get that we don't make that much on every offer per offer, but I'm not looking at it like that. I'm looking at it like, okay, right now I got 3 offers from 3 different apps. Which one is paying me the most at this particular time? And then which one is going to be the fastest? Oh, okay, look, it's like, ooh, Instacart is paying me $17 to go 3 miles, and I only got to get 2 items. Uber is paying me, let's say, $10 to go 5 miles. And I don't know, let's just throw in DoorDash, right? DoorDash is paying me $9 to go 6 miles. Which offer do you think I'm going to take? I'm not going to be doing the Uber ride. I'm going to do the Instacart offer. Run in there, shop for these people, get the 1 or 2 items that it is, come back out, and take it a mile and get my $17 or $10. I forget what I said. But the point, that's why I multi-app. Because, yeah, we may not make a huge amount on the fare, but as an independent contractor, You have to start looking at this not from the standpoint of, oh, I'm an Uber driver. I'm a special. No. Or I'm a DoorDash driver. I'm a DoorDash. No. Or I'm an Amazon driver. No. I am in business for myself. So because I'm in business for myself, the very same thing that we're talking about when we talk about Uber, damn, Uber used to be 80-20. But obviously they realized they have more supply and they could pay us less. So they did it. They're doing it. So they're doing what's best for them. And that's all I try to preach. These companies are going to do what's best for them all the time. Make no mistake about it. This is why I tell you guys, we are just a number. If you're going to do this gig work, you got to understand, you're just a number to these companies. I've done almost what? I forget what my number is now. I've had to do like 6,000 rides. I think I did like over 1,000 deliveries with Amazon. I think I've done over 1,000 deliveries with DoorDash. I think I definitely have done more than 1,000 rides with Lyft. But guess what? No matter what, I've been deactivated on Uber multiple times. I've been deactivated on Lyft once or twice. I definitely was deactivated on DoorDash. And I'm currently deactivated on Amazon. Again, why, you may ask? For stupid stuff, not stuff that's, in other words, for stuff that's out of my control. And you get why? Because I'm just a number. Doesn't matter. They don't care about me. So I guess what I'm just trying to overall say is, you can't look at this as, I'm just going to do Uber. I'm just going to do DoorDash or whatever. I'm just going to be an Uber driver. Because it's not profitable. You have to make the best decision for your business. Not my business, your business. You want to be profitable? You want to work a certain set of time? You got to do it this way. I mean, I would recommend that you do it this way. Because that's how I'm doing it. As you guys can see. And it's profitable. Very profitable. But it's just, you got to change your mindset. That's all I'm pushing back on. So I can get a pay raise anytime I want because obviously I'm multi-app. But yeah, all right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Like you all know, if you're not a part of the Telegram group, hit the link in the description. Join the free community. Other than that, man, if you got any questions, leave them down below. As you can see, these flies killing me. I'm out of here. Deuces.